What is going on, Bucs fans, NCFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with yet another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and today we're going to be discussing the inside linebacker position as part of our positional reviews for the 2023 season, as has been the case with the rest of the reviews, which you can go check out on the YouTube channel as well if you've missed those. We've done every position leading up to the inside linebackers right now, only have a few more left, but joining me, as has been the case with every single review so far, is James Hill, Mr. Bucs Nation. You know him, some love him. How you doing tonight, James?
You know, this is probably one of the more question mark position groups that we've talked about, right? I mean, you have some, I will say this, you have a lot more questions than answers. I think that is definitely a given. So there's a lot to dive into with this. So yeah, just ready to dive into another group.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the position's headlined by two guys right at the top, right? Lavonte David and Devin White, who Lavonte David made headlines for his play, obviously, and Devin White made headlines for other things that were sometimes not his play, but also sometimes his play, because admittedly, Devin White struggled this season. And basically, James, Devin White was benched at the end of the season for KJ Britt.
Not only was he benched for the regular season, Evan, we barely saw him in the playoff games. That is so much more telling than like a regular season benching, right? A guy who was a key piece of the Bucs Super Bowl run in 2020, was a former number 5 overall pick, was possibly expected to get a gigantic payday after the season, and it went about as wrong as it could have went for Devin White. Again, to get benched, like you said, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well, it's not good. Not good at all.
Yeah, and I mean, just get out of the way right now. Obviously, if you listen to the podcast, we've said it, me and Rhett have said it a lot. I'm sure if you listen to James's channel, you know, I'm sure James has mentioned this. Like, not many, and we are, you know, some of those people. We do not expect Devin White to be back in Tampa Bay. And matter of fact, I would probably be shocked if Devin White was back in Tampa Bay for any sort of contract. I know some people be like, well, what if it's a 1 year, you know, prove it deal? I just think the Buccaneers want to move on. I think the player wants to move on. I think that was evident that the player wanted to move on when he requested a trade in the summer. You know, he didn't want to be in Tampa Bay to begin with, and he tried to play good soldier. And yeah, well, what a terrible time to have probably the worst year of your career. I mean, Devin White has been inconsistent throughout his career, but I would say this is probably the worst he's looked, especially like you said, to get benched, not only in the regular season, that's one thing. And he did, you know, he battled some injuries here and there, but to get benched in the playoffs, I think he might have played, I could be wrong, but I think he played like 14 snaps in that Detroit game. It was pretty lopsided in favor of KJ Britt in that Detroit game. So, yeah, not a great outlook for the future for Devin White.
No, he did. He played 14 snaps in the divisional game. He played 26 snaps in the Eagles game, which was good for 44% in the wild card, but then things went downhill quick.
40 snaps in 2 games, 2 playoff games, folks. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about what the Buccaneers think of Devin White's future. It's just this isn't a guy that, and this is playoffs. This is playoffs. This is go home, go big or go home, right? This is do or die. And the Buccaneers chose that KJ Britt was the best man for the job at that point. So I think that tells you all you need to know right there.
I mean, even on top of that, I mean, KJ Britt outsnapped Devin White in both of the playoff games. 33 snaps in game 1, 59 snaps in game 2.
So 59-14 in game 2. That's that again, that tells you what you need to know about KJ Britt, which we'll mention Britt a little bit later here, but also what you need to know about Devin White. So to close the book on Devin White, do not expect him to be back in Tampa Bay. Like I said, would be shocked if he were back. But let's talk about a dude who is also an unrestricted free agent, right? And a little less than a month at this point now. Who I know the Bucs want back, and I know Bucs fans want back, and that is, of course, Lavonte David. Lavonte David again had a great season. I mean, he really did. I think he actually had one of the better seasons he's had in a few seasons. Actually, I thought he was all over the place. He made consistent tackles, made splash plays, didn't get as many sacks as he did in years past, but still proving that it's almost like an ageless wonder at this point. And he's still one of the best linebackers in the league. Now, the longer we go on, right, we haven't heard anything about Lavonte David retiring, but I still think that is a possibility. But to me, the read I get on this situation, this isn't sourced or anything, but I have to imagine it's either retirement or a return to Tampa Bay for Lavonte David. I can't see this guy playing anywhere else in 2024.
No, I mean, I agree. Just to take a look at it, by the way, it's the most tackles for loss Lavonte David has had since 2015. It's the most solo tackles he's had since 2018. It is the most tackles for loss he's had since 2014. It is the most passes defended he's had since 2020. So it was a couple years for that. It's the most sacks he's had since 2016. The third most sacks.
I even said he wasn't as explosive with the sacks either. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's the third most sacks in his career, actually.
How many do you have?
4.5. So that was half a sack from being tied for the second most of his career. So point being is Lavonte David at the age of 33 is still going out there and playing some really good football. And like you said, this is one of the better seasons Devin White has had in a few years. Obviously,
Lavonte David.
What did I say?
Not Devin White.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that's the opposite. But Lavonte David, this is one of the better seasons he's had in like 6-7 years, basically, at least statistically. And yeah, I agree with you. It's either coming back to the Bucs, I would say, or retirement. Now, that's the biggest question. Is Devin White going to retire? Is he not going to retire?
Lavonte David.
Did I say Devin White again? I'm off.
You got Devin White on the mind, man.
I do. I can't stop thinking about the guy. Who knows? Maybe he will retire based on how he was this past year. But Lavonte David,
strays out here.
Yeah, Lavonte David. Okay, is it's an interesting question. It really is. There are no reports to give any indication that is a thing.
There's no even any like slight rumor. I mean, really, one way or another, there isn't any like it doesn't, like, nobody's really talking about it.
Yeah, I think the biggest question though is like, would Lavonte David even be a guy? Like, I could totally see Lavonte David being one of those guys who just comes out and is like, yeah, I'm retiring.
Kind of like an Ali Marpet thing, like
out
of nowhere, just
and it's like, just because that's the kind of guy who Lavonte David is, he's just a quiet guy. So I wouldn't expect him to make this gigantic spectacle. I would expect him to go out and just say, hey, I'm quietly done. That wouldn't be surprising to me. So, and obviously when guys get to 33, 34 years old, that's going to be something that's going to be on the minds of fans and media alike. And it's 100% not going to be on Lavonte David's mind. So that's the biggest question. We will have to wait and see. If he does come back, that's great for the Bucs inside linebacker position. If he does not come back, you have some pretty legitimate question marks there.
Yeah, and regardless of whether Lavonte David or Devin White is back in Tampa Bay, two guys that will be there are KJ Britt and Servassier Dennis. Servassier Dennis obviously was a rookie this year. KJ Britt has been in the league for a little bit now, but just now really got his chance, right, to be a starting linebacker in this defense. And he wasn't spectacular, but I thought he held his own, especially, I mean, it helps when you have a guy with the talent of a Lavonte David right next to you. That certainly is going to help. So assuming Lavonte David's back and Devin White's not, do you think KJ Britt is potentially the guy week one starting next to David, or do you think they maybe look to go out and try and find another starter there?
If Lavonte David comes back, I would say that KJ Britt would probably be the number 2. I think that is a pretty fair assumption to make. The Bucs have a lot of money they got to spend in different places this year. Mm-hmm. You have 2 guys on the roster in KJ Britt and Servassier Dennis. I don't know the contract situation of JJ Russell, but he had to start a game for the Bucs, and I thought he looked okay in that role as well. So like, those are the 3 young linebackers that you would expect to have to step up in these in this situation moving forward, who are the 3 guys that are going to be left on this roster, where if Lavonte David does come back, okay, you can probably put in KJ Britt, see what he does, and then you have Servassier Dennis and JJ Russell as your backups. If Lavonte David leaves, that's where, or sorry, if he retires, you know, I don't think he would leave, but if he retires
in the event he's not in Tampa Bay in 2024, just
you need to go out and get a new number one. It's as simple as that. Now, I think KJ Britt can be a very serviceable number 2 inside linebacker. I think that Servassier Dennis and JJ Russell can be great backup pieces, but you would be in desperate need of a number 1. I don't think KJ Britt's there. I don't think Servassier Dennis is there. I don't think JJ Russell's there. So that's the biggest question. And really, a lot of people make a lot of assumptions already about, like, of course, Evans looking to come back, Baker looking to come back, Antoine Winfield Jr. looking to come back. This is probably going to be one of the bigger questions the Bucs have so far this offseason is, will Lavonte David stay or go? And depending on how that happens, you could see big ripple effects in the Bucs offseason plans.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is the one where right now we're talking about this, and inside linebacker isn't like a crazy need. Like, it's not at the top, you know, of like what the Bucs need. Oh, what do the Bucs need? Oh, instantly you think of inside linebacker. It's not really that, but it's something to where 3 weeks from now it could very well be near the top if you know Lavonte David decides to hang it up, and of course, you know, Devin White likely departing. So we'll see. I would expect. If Lavonte David does resign, don't expect a long-term deal. It's going to be a one-year deal from here on out. I think Lavonte is basically playing it year to year at this point. So we will see what happens there. But with that being said, I want to know what you guys thought of the linebacker position, the inside linebacker position this past season. What do you think of the whole Devin White thing, going back from his trade request in the offseason to how he played this year, to KJ Britt replacing them, all that jazz? I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. And also, do you think Lavonte David's going to retire? Do you think he's going to return to Tampa Bay? What are your thoughts on KJ Britt? Do you think the Bucs need another starter there? Do they need multiple starters if Lavonte David, decides to hang it up? So, like, you know, because there might be some people that thinks, hey, if Lavonte retires, you need a number 1, but then you might as well replace Britt too, maybe, right? Because maybe the number 1 linebacker you get to replace David isn't going to be as good as David, right? That's always a possibility. So we will see, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.